So great to see the music once again there, everybody. So great, and welcome to what is going to undoubtedly going to be another classic 2022 Formula One World Championship this year. It's going to be a fantastic one. We've got new cars, we've got new drivers. Have we got new drivers? Yeah, we've already got some new drivers. We've got new dogs in the pit. We've got yeah, some of the drivers have got some new girlfriends, and I'm not saying I like them. I don't. Anyway, we've also got new destinations to go to. We've got new race directors. We've got new wheels, new tires, new side pods, and very importantly, we've got new content. So that's the most important thing. Please remember, like, subscribe, and obviously my bit shoot is looking forward to getting shot with some bits. That sounds a little bit racy, but there we go. Racy is what we're about this year. Smooth cutaways into the new topic, which is welcome to the pre-season 2022 review. I'm joined, as always, by my incredibly good-looking expert Italian, Fabio.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, I've got to say. So looking forward to this year. It's going to be a cracker. It could go up, it could go down, it could go forwards, but I'm most looking forward to it going round and round. So that's my basically my judgment for what's going to happen this year. I've got to say we've been testing so far, and this is why we've decided to do the show. Obviously, we're going to be giving our predictions later in the show, and we will be joined, as always, by our fantastic Formula One pitman, Peter. Pitman Peter will be here later. So here he is already, and there's a little giveaway there of where we might have sent him. So I think you can guess, but there it is. Anyway, so just welcome everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we're going to get straight into it. I've got a whole list of queries and quandaries that we're going to be addressing, and of course with our expert Italian here. No, okay.
Hello.
He is. Yeah.
Okay, I was waiting for you to say something. Okay.
Well, I thought you were just going to speak Italian to show you're an expert, but okay, don't worry about it.
Okay, yeah.
Don't worry. That's fine.
Yeah, I
That's
missed
fine.
that. Yeah. So.
Anyway, yeah. So we're so looking forward to it. There's a lot of new stuff to get through. So I'm just going to hand you over to our expert Italian now. Ciao, 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 ciao. Thank you. Yeah. So there's the proof, and over to you, Fabio. Well, what do you think about the new year? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, I was quite scared that all the cars were looking alike, which it's not the case. So, yeah, that's the first thing. Good. Apparently, there are some people which went for some radical designs. The some cars which really stands from the other cars, which is again a good thing. And even if it was to be expected with the change of new rules, it's still in a way it's a good relief because we were afraid that everybody was going in one direction, not taking any risks. But apparently, somebody took some of them, and it's good. I mean, we have to see if that works. Of course, there are some cars on the grid which, if they work, is going to be a problem for a lot of other teams because you budget cap, all this stuff, and it's very difficult to change the car, in 1 year, maybe depending on what you have to do, even in 2 years. So there are some big question marks from the cars that we saw. Like, the one of the most different cars, I would say, of course, the Mercedes, which was being presented in Bahrain, which, it's basically the same car which was in Barcelona, just with different side pods. The internal were already the same. But that is definitely different from all the other cars. Like Williams is another car which is slightly different. So if those concepts work, as opposed to something like I would say Aston Martin or uh, McLaren Alpine, that is going to be a problem. Other
Yeah,
cars have gone for other concept too, like Ferrari is going for a different concept on the shape of the barge boards and the fairings. So yeah, it is really interesting. So everybody try
yeah.
to put the best, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's more to say. But let's carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that was the big fear at the end of last year, was that they were all going to be identical to the test car, and obviously, it didn't turn out that way, mainly because of the type of regulations they brought in. So I will address that with you in a little while, Fabio, because I know you have something specific to say about the way they introduce these regulations as opposed to exactly what they are. Okay, so I'd just like to go over to the actual circuit. Who we sent out Peter early because we realised that he has some friends over there. There's a couple of humps over there that he knows, favourite camel that he has, and so we sent him over to reunite early. And while he was there, he also checked out the test session. So Peter, are you coming? Are you in there? You coming? Could you come through from Bahrain? There he is. He's in Bahrain now. Thank you very
I'm
much, Peter.
I'm there.
Uh,
Slightly red because of the sun. Obviously, I'm Dutch. I do get a little bit
it's
better
been hot.
weather than people in, let's say, Great Britain. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm feeling pale. If it's not
yes,
noticeable.
yes, you are a bit pale.
Yes.
A whiter shade of pale. Um,
Thank
but
you.
yes, you're welcome.
Almost transparent, some might say.
Yes,
Anyway, yeah. So you've been in Bahrain. Thank you
yes.
very much. How's it been over there? What are the
It,
women like? What are the hotels like? And more
th-
importantly, did you manage to find your room?
there's a hotel. I didn't know this
Oh
came with a
shit!
hotel.
I, I thought I thought Fabio sorted that out. Obviously not.
I've
Okay, sorry about that. You
I've
got the tent though, did you?
I've rolled up a couple of used tires and snuck into that. That was pretty kept me out of the wind.
Very nice too. So
So
very
yeah,
nice too. Could be
mm,
worse. Could be worse. You might
yeah,
have to slice open a camel and get inside that because of the cold. But anyway, it's a Star Wars
yes,
reference.
yes,
Don't worry about that. Don't
yes.
worry about that, Peter.
I'm
Okay, so
knew that.
Formula One. I've heard of it. I know what it's about. Peter, talk.
Yes. Oh, so there's a lot of things that completely new. So as you said, but you missed one. You said it go forward, it could go back, and I love it when things go sideways. Just wanted to say out of that one.
Okay.
We were talking punchlines earlier. You missed that one, really.
I did miss that one. You're absolutely
Really,
right.
really.
Um, I think I missed it again, to be fair, because I
Yes.
didn't laugh. But anyway, that's another
No,
point.
no problem.
So
I'll write it out
what
in
what did you?
Discord for you to check it out later. Then your brain
Thank you
will
very
wrap
much. If you wouldn't
around.
mind tweeting it to me,
Yes.
because apparently that's where all the intelligent people go for passing messages. Okay,
Oh,
so yeah. So basically, what did you think of the new cars? Let's just talk about the cars before we talk about testing.
well, I have to say that I was and I still am obviously a fan of the one and only Sir, but the car he
Fan of the
has.
what? The one and only
Yes, you heard me.
Sir? Did you
Sir,
say?
Sir,
Huh?
Sir. Yeah. Never mind.
Sorry, translate that for me, somebody, would you?
It's when
Hey, lyrics. Good to see you.
it's apparently something that the British are pretty excited about when they get appointed by the Queen. I don't know.
Okay, no, I thought it wasn't me. Your microphone's cutting out
Ah,
for some
okay.
reason.
It's my
Yeah,
mic.
it's kind of shit. Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
it? Is
yeah.
it?
I thought. I mean, I didn't know whether you were mispronouncing words, whether I did. I
I
no longer spoke English,
I
or,
always
or what
mispronounce
exactly.
words. I mean, you should know
There
that.
we go.
You should know that. I'll
Well,
I'll
that's fine. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
disable my noise gate. Maybe that helps. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
For some
Okay.
reason,
Although,
my microphone devolved over the winter break, apparently.
okay.
But
Well, it's just this is why we're doing a pre-season, so we can
yeah,
flush out all the bugs,
and
Can we
which
talk about
in
Formula
Bahrain.
One, please?
exactly
Come
because
on.
he
Jesus
I
Christ.
had a
You
nice
guys just
train of
fucking
thought,
killing me.
and Simons just completely derailed it after I mentioned that it could go sideways. He did pick up on it finally. It wasn't meant to be here though, just during the
And
races.
still, we're not talking about
And
Formula
still,
One.
No,
Come on.
I shut up.
yes,
Cars, Peter.
yes,
Cars. Just
the
talk about the
cars.
cars, not the
Jesus
testing.
Christ.
Well,
Give us your immediate impression on the cars,
the
please.
the weirdest one, and I would say the ugliest one, has to be this year's Mercedes. I still I it it seems weird when you look at it. It also seems
Right.
not to be working the way they want it to work because they're not top of the list. Whereas
Yeah, very true.
Red Bull came in on the last day with their completely new design, which I have to say
Hmm.
I very much like. That's a
Good.
really good looking car, and
Okay.
but
So
we'll have to
that's
wait.
good. So okay, that's good. Thank you so much.
There is
You're
more, but
generally impressed.
that's going to be in a special segment that I have prepared.
Well, that's what I'm just about to introduce,
Ah,
because clearly
okay.
you can't stick it to the script. So anyway,
There's a script.
Peter, now we'll get on to
You
testing,
need a
right?
producer.
Despite the fact you've just mentioned testing. Oh my God, this is going to be a long show, everybody. You better
Christ,
just
fuck
strap down for
this.
now. Okay,
Okay.
basically. Okay, so basically, you've been at testing this
Yes.
week.
Yes.
What happened, and did you notice anything? Maybe
Well,
you've got a few anecdotes, stories, or memes to show us.
we could start with the one from last year. Uh, yeah, that
Yeah,
actually happened. Uh, he's gone.
it was a prediction.
Yes, it was a prediction. It was a pretty good prediction too. But and I'm not sorry he's gone. Last year was a fiasco, I think. So let's get to other things. So here's the
No,
picture.
Mikey, no.
Here's a picture that I took really at the start, and you'll be surprised to see that there's someone missing. Can you see who it is?
Yeah, Ricardo, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And Noah.
he wasn't entirely missing. He was just out of
No.
shot.
Oh, there
Just
he goes.
see. So he
That's what I was going to say. They go two by two.
yes.
Very biblical.
And for people who have noticed and who are watching everything closely, there's a thing with hair. So I haven't shaved for a couple of weeks just to sort of fit in. But honestly, this is a
Yeah.
picture that was on Twitter, and so this is Vettel, obviously not uh, being able to afford some hairstylist. But that's not even the worst thing. Look at his overalls. It is as if Lawrence Stroll has had that made for himself and then handed it down to Vettel. It
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
obviously far too big, and I don't know what happened to Vettel there. I mean, it's just sad.
Yeah.
But it seems a world champion thing because then we have Alonso, who obviously adopted the exact same hairstyle that Vettel has now. It I don't get it.
Fantastic.
I don't get it. But let's get back to
Yeah, well,
cars.
if
Let's
you're
get
a
back to
multiple world champion, obviously.
yeah. I wanted to get back to cars because that's the main thing. So when it comes to the best car, what would you think, design wise, would be the best
Yeah.
car?
Anything Adrian Newey makes.
Yeah. See, and there's where we differ, because have you thought about the
Okay.
fact of the practicality of the Formula One car? Because you have no luggage space. Whereas when you have an Aston Martin, look at the room.
There you go.
You can actually take
Look at that.
yeah 2 golf bags easily in both side pods one.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that
I,
has to
I
be.
have. I've seen less luggage space in a Ferrari.
See, I've seen a very hot Ferrari here yesterday. It went up in
Okay,
flames. It went
that's
up in flames.
that,
I'm not even kidding. Just a few miles from
okay.
my house. Okay,
Oh,
so
right. Sorry, I thought you were leading into another meme. Beg your
no, no,
pardon.
no, 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 no. So, but yeah,
Okay.
all the talk now is that Mercedes is sandbagging, and so as a matter of fact, I because I'm behind the scenes, I do get everywhere, and I so these are the actual sandbags used for this season for Mercedes during testing.
Brilliant. Yes.
And then, yeah, obviously we had Lewis. Lewis didn't win, so he's got less pressure, things that he can do because he's obviously less engagement because he's no longer the world champion. So he's now an art critic, and here you can see him judging a photo competition that was made in last year somewhere. And
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
one thing though is that he's going to get some competition when it comes to fashion because he might not have been there, and I don't know if that is because of other I don't know, but so we have to keep an eye out for this guy.
Oh, yeah. That's stylish.
I mean, not entirely sure
Yeah,
why 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 he's
I,
dressed in the Alpine color scheme, but
well, presumably because he's thinking of going back to his old team.
that might be it. So
Yeah.
yeah, well,
There
that
you
was
go.
that was it for me for
Fantastic. Thank
the
you so
preseason
much.
testing.
Much appreciated there. Um, Spooky says, I hope this is being streamed to Twitch. And no, Spooky, it's not. But now you mention it, that is something that we may not have been on the ball about. So thank you for that. If you can DM me that on Discord, I'll make sure that happens for the first race. So thank you for that. Lyric says,
Everyone's moving off
Lyric says, if I
Twitch,
could
and
afford it, I'd get an Aston in a second. And yeah, no, I would as well, of course. Also, Lyric says, is this a fashion show? It usually is. Okay,
yeah.
this is Peter's roundup we're talking about.
I mean,
And
look
he
at look
very
at
much does
look
focus on
look at
fashion.
Fabio. How could it not be?
Yeah, there is that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Sound is better. Great. Glad to see some more F1 stuff. That's okay. That's great. So moving on now. Okay, so I've got a few talking points that I'd like to go through with you guys if we can. I know we're going to be talking about cars and stuff here. So, firstly, um, basically, can the cars follow? It was alleged that the change of regulations, etc., were very much for allowing cars to follow. What do you think we've seen in the testing as to whether that's possible? What have you heard back from any of the interviews drivers have done? Fabio.
So, what I heard is that it seems to be that they're easier to follow up to a certain distance, and then when you get too close, it becomes problematic. But overall, they're easier to follow than last year. That seems to be the general consensus about the driver, for the driver. Of course, the cars have changed drastically from last year. Ground effect is way more effective. I mean, we're not talking 90s ground effect, but still, it's way more pronounced than it used to be. And there are some solutions like the deflectors in front of the rear wheel, of the front wheel, which apparently help a lot with the outwash and of the car. So again, it's tricky because the main thing about these tests is that I will talk about it later. I'm sure about it. Is that we don't really know anything. It's the there were no standards by which the car can really be measured, at least from the outside. Maybe if you're inside, you look at GPS, you can figure out, how much weight they were running with. So it's difficult. But there was some drivers actually tried to get close to other cars just to see what the effect was. And the few which did, like for example, Science did, was in a couple of occasions really close. And overall, what he said was that they're a little bit easier, to be in that position than last year.
Peter, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, during the testing, we saw at least a couple of close races. The thing with Alonso and Stroll comes to mind. I was actually wondering why they didn't try and do that a bit more to see whether or not it was really working, because that was some.
Mm.
It looked like close racing. I think Fernando may have been a little bit annoyed that Stroll didn't didn't move over, but
Yeah,
at least
absolutely.
it was fun to watch. And Crofty said, if everyone else takes notice and starts doing this, we could have a proper race. Obviously, they didn't.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it it looks it
Okay.
looks
So
it looks like things have improved. So yeah.
yeah, I would definitely say they've improved it. I did hear, I think it was Ricardo, or it might have been Russell, saying it was difficult when you were a second behind. It was just like before. It was
Yeah.
difficult, but as you got closer, it improved, and it looks like you're going to be able to at least get up and stay behind somebody quite close, even if you don't get the slipstream that you got before. So I think with DRS, it means we will see a fair amount of overtaking, at least because you'll be able to follow somebody within a half a second through a corner.
Yeah.
So that should be good. Although with such big front wings, I also feel that that's going to be problematic for tyre wear. So I think that's going to be an issue. That once the front air gets disturbed, once the air gets disturbed over the front wing, then front tyre wear is going to become an issue over a long period of time if you can't get past somebody. So I think we are. I'm 50-50 on it as to whether this will really make the difference or not. I'm hoping it will because you'll be able to follow closely. But I'm hoping that with the deployment of ERS and the extra systems, that doesn't mess up and stop people overtaking down the straight with DRS due to lack of slipstream. So maybe we're giving away some things to get another, and then we're giving up the slipstream in order to affect overtakings down the straight. I hope that won't be the case.
Well, the thing is that with those cars, the way that you try to shape the air around the car is completely different. I mean, while last year you were trying to put as much air as you could on the wings because those were the ones which were providing downforce. Now you try to move the air outside of the car because doing that you basically manage to seal the ground, which is I mean it's usually, well, it's basically what happened in the 90s with the first ground effects when you have skirts. You don't have skirts now, so in order to properly seal the ground, the bottom, so that it gets sucked down, the only way you have to do is with hair. So uh, the concept, which is different, drastically different from last year, is that instead of trying to move all your air on the rear wing and the front wing, you try to move the air on the side of the car, which seals the bottom, and that means that there is less turbulence on the rear, which is facilitates the fact that you ride well. Of course, you have less draft, less
Slipstream, yeah.
yes, less slipstream, but that's the name of the game right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, okay. We're hopeful. I think that's the general thing. We're hopeful at the moment, and it certainly seems to be an improvement in terms of allowing the opportunities to overtake. Although whether the cars will be fast enough to do that or not is still an unknown thing. How do they look? I mean, the cars. We're quite excited, are we, by the extra wheel size, by the
Yeah, I loved
18-inch
it.
wheels?
I totally loved. I mean, I told already last year when they were trying in GP2, I, they, well, from a, just from a purely aesthetic point of view, they look like a little bit more tired than than the one they used to have. They look. I mean, the 13 inches, they look cartoonish, a big rubber stuff like that. So from that point of view, I totally love it. I hate the shields on the wheels. I mean, the fact
Me
that you
too.
cannot see the rim, it just kills me. I totally hate that. And apparently it's also a source for some problems because of the heat management that you have to do with the brakes. I mean, you used to push the hot air outside. Now it can't go outside. He has to go inside, and a lot of cars they had issues. I mean, uh, but
McLaren, yeah,
well, besides Williams, which I think it was
then we,
probably a technical error or somebody put something wrong. But yeah, McLaren had a lot of problems with heat management on the tires. So yeah, good for the tires, but they managed to shit on it. So
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
fully
think
yeah.
it's
I
agree.
mean, they
finished.
wanted to do that to. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, no, I just said I fully agree. It doesn't look like a proper wheel, and that's what you want to see on a racing car. You want to see a nice proper wheel.
Mm.
That too. Other than the cooling problems, I just from a design point of view, yeah, it looks shit. And
Yeah,
you
it's.
could
I
do
think.
things with it by making it nice, giving it some color. I mean, there are things to do, and maybe they will over the course of the year. I don't know. For now, yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, they look very cheap as well, certainly
Yeah,
compared to the old wheel covers that we used to have back in whatever it was, 2007 or something
Yeah,
like that.
and again, there's some technical reasons why it's that, and it all follows, what we
Yeah.
said before about having less disturbed air on the rear. The wheels are a big, they were a big problem for that because pushing air outside it just builds like columns of hot air that gets mixed with the. I mean, it's a fucking mess. That
Mm.
way, the slipstream is a little bit more clean, but still
Yeah.
they suck. I mean, they just yeah. I don't know.
Very much, very much. Okay, just moving on now. One of the things that they've done is to increase the weight of the cars. I think it's now 728 kilos, something like that. What has this done for the sport? Because the cars have been getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and as such, it looks like they've been more and more unwieldy. Do you think this is a good thing, bad thing? Do you know
No,
why we're doing it?
from that point of view, those cars they really suck. I mean, they're heavy and wide. I mean, they're really bad. From that point of view, I think that the weight problem is mostly because of the fact that they are using a lot of standardized parts, and they later realized that a lot of those parts they have a certain weight, and because of the fact that, well, I wouldn't say that they made them to be cheap, but they made them to be affordable by all the teams.
Mm,
So a team like Williams spends the same amount of money on rims as Ferrari. So there has to be a compromise between weight, the way they're built, and the price that the teams can afford. So some of those parts, and just took the rims because we talked about it before, but there's some other parts. And some of those parts they weigh a little bit more than they predicted, and
mhm.
because of those, it gets harder and harder to shave weight from the parts that you can actually build. So that is the reason. My this is my understanding of why the weight has been brought up a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a couple of other reasons. But Peter, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the side chat. Is it to help with the ballasting?
Okay.
Obviously, Aston Martin will have room for that. Um, I yeah, that the weight is going to be an issue always. So that's why they try to keep it as low as possible. Um, and this, yeah, I agree with Fabio. It's a lot about standardizing some components, and I'm pretty sure they're also brought over from last season, at least for the most part. So there's just not an awful lot you can do other than changing the rules again. I
Mm.
mean,
Okay. So yeah, so my understanding is that there's some significant safety upgrades, and that these weigh considerably more than last year. So actually, most of the weights, not just the tires or the wheels, the rims, etc., which do weigh, maybe 2-3 kilos extra per wheel, which is 10 kilos. All right. Plus, they've increased the amount of fuel because of this E10 that they're using. So there's an extra 10 kilos of fuel there. But there's also new side pod regulations, new nose regulations, crash structure regulations.
and they changed the tank as
So
well.
all of sure,
Uh,
all of these things. I just mentioned that, but yeah,
yeah,
all of these things add to a lot of extra weight. And as my understanding is that none of the cars are currently, other than the Alfa Romeo, are currently making the weight. And so there is no ballasting at all on the cars at the moment by any of the teams. None of the cars have come in underweight, and I think this is going to be a big problem for the cars going forward. Hence, potentially we're going to have an unreliable season if they try to make the cars,
I,
make the weight. Right.
no,
Go
I
ahead.
sorry, just a small thing. I agree with you. The only reason I mentioned the tires and the rims is because we talked about it. Yeah, but of course I agree with you. There's some parts, even the side pods. They're standard. So, uh, I I personally, I'm not really sure about the cars being reaching the weight limit. I would be really surprised if that's the case. And I know that is news which have been going around, but
Mm.
I'm personally really 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 skeptical about that part. But
About
it's
them
just me.
not being in weight, or being
Yes,
you think
yes.
they are in weight? Yeah, no,
Oh,
I've heard that
yeah,
none of the cars have made the weight other than
yeah.
Alfa Romeo, and of course Alfa had some problems with it.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I've heard that too.
Mm.
See that's one of those things that I don't really believe. But it's just me.
Okay,
Might be
I see.
super wrong. I'm probably yeah.
Okay, so the next topic I wanted to talk about with the side pods or no side pods for Mercedes. Do we think that it is the way to go, Mercedes, or not the way to go? That would
Uh,
be my question.
well, this is one of those concepts that I said before at the beginning. It's that if it works, Mercedes is going to have a huge advantage that
Hmm.
will probably carry on for a couple of years, if it works. I'm not sure it does. And I also think that focusing on one part of the car is, it's I would say naive, but it's really reductive. I mean, it's the car which works in its complex,
Hmm.
so it's not the side pods alone which make the difference. There is one interesting thing about the side pods, the way that Mercedes has put. Well, actually, there are a couple of things. The first one is that the biggest work that they have to do is actually redesigning all the radiators and all the stuff. That was a massive endeavor by them, and I mean, I'm in order for you to go through that much of work, you've got to be super committed about that solution. It's not something that somebody just wakes up and say, "Oh, let's put the radiator in that way," because it's problematic. Actually, Mercedes had some issues with actually putting the fairings on the car. There is a journalist,
Hmm.
an Italian journalist that, I mean, it's well known, Giorgio Piola. It's famous because he used to make all the drawings and all the stuff. That he made a comment, I think it was on day two in Bahrain, that he personally saw the Mercedes mechanics putting the fairing, helping them with a rubber mallet, which it's something that, yeah, right. It's what the fuck, especially Mercedes, where everything fits, the way they had to help closing the thing with a rubber mallet, and he saw that with his own eyes. So I have no doubts that happened. So it's really complicated. The other thing about the Mercedes solution, be super brief, is that there'll be some controversies about the fact if it's regular or not. Now, I won't get into the regulation of these here because they're really difficult to understand. They do not specify measures, but they specify volumes, and it's almost impossible to judge a volume, with the eye. So we all have to understand that the cars are, legal. The thing, the controversy which has been raised recently by Binotto, and Binotto said something really interesting about the solution they found last year. Last year in Ferrari, they tried to put the mirrors on the halo, or halo, or depending on where the fuck you live, right?
Yeah.
And they had to take them away, not because they were not regular, they were against the rules, but because the FIA asked them to remove them because they were not adhering to the spirit of the rules. Now, why I'm saying that's interesting? It's interesting because the way that the Mercedes put the side pods, without basically the bellies, the radiator stuff, they look suspiciously like wing. And they put them in such a way so that basically they say that they are support for the mirrors, which is ridiculous. But I think that Binotto might have a point there. So even if they're not irregular, it remains to be seen if they adhere to the spirit of the rules. And I know it's something that everybody says, to muddle the water and stuff like that. But it's hard not to see the guy's point.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Although I will just say one additional thing, which is they're also part of the crash structure. So Mercedes cannot take them away. Right? So let's just say that. So they might be saying, this is part of the crash structure. That's why it's there. It's not aerodynamic. It's not aerodynamic because it's part of the crash structure. So even though it looks aerodynamic, but we've heard that argument before.
If it's part of the crash structure,
over several different.
You probably have to make it aerodynamic. You can't just put a block in there that completely screws up the entire aerodynamics. So there's got to wait.
It turns out. Yeah, of course. It turns out to be aerodynamic despite what they wanted to do. Yeah, it just happens to be.
You
have to. The other thing, of course, is Mercedes said that they had already sent the CAD designs to the FIA, and the FIA had approved them as being legal. Although, of course, they're not legal in the sense that they've been tested legally. They're only legal in the sense that somebody okayed them at the FIA. Right? Or not the FIA, but the technical department. So that until they get tested, until they get called up, I can't remember what the word is, until they get reported on or called out for being illegal, they're not legal, right? So that's the actual position.
No, but I understand and agree. And what is my feeling towards engineers being ahead of a team? We've been saying that for 2 years. I just don't. Yeah, I think it's okay. But regardless, I kind of sympathize with Binotto's point of view. Because it happened to him, and last year they told him, but you can't do that because it's not. And say, okay, you told me that last year, and okay, what's the situation now? So I kind of sympathize with the guy. It will probably bring to nothing, but I understand that him saying that, and also being probably one of the only persons in the circus that is legitimate to say that, you
Yeah.
know.
Welcome to Bub Elvis, by the way. Good to see you again this year. Thank you for coming back. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Peter, any further comments?
Yeah, no, I have to say I just like it when things like this happen. The whole thing behind the sport is to push it to the limits and to find the mazes in the rules to and have that to your benefit. And obviously then seeing the other
Yeah.
teams complain if things work for you and they haven't thought of it, that's part of the game. That's what makes this exciting, and that's what gets us at least different cars. Because if you didn't have that, all the cars would look the same, because no one would even try
Okay.
and think outside of the box, like for instance Mercedes
Absolutely.
have just done. And so
Absolutely.
I really like it when things like that happen. I mean, it's creativity
Okay.
and yeah, I think it
Yeah.
adds. And also the fights that are going on over is this legal, and seeing how they, as I just said, Mercedes can twist it. It's part of the structure, and because we had this big lump, we had to make it somewhat aerodynamic. It's a great cop
Yeah.
out. I mean, I
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
I
for me
mean,
that's part of the fun.
I'd love it more if it turns out that it doesn't work, so we can have Lewis Hamilton whining the whole year. Yeah, that would be
Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic. But yeah,
Well, I love also the fact that the best car, in terms of what they've done on the side, turns out to be the McLaren. So that's a Mercedes-powered car,
yeah,
okay? And
yeah,
it looks like at this early stage, although the update that Red Bull brought looks to be very effective as well. But it looks like the McLaren has sorted out the back of the car and the back of the skirt, more importantly, better than anybody. And if that's the case, then they can at least raise their car and still keep the skirt sealed, which of course is not what Mercedes have been doing. Mercedes all the way through the test have kept their car low and hence been subject to, and I'm going to use the dreaded word now, porpoising. Okay, so it's time to talk about porpoising, people.
holy shit.
And yes, I'm afraid we have to do it. A lot of the teams have suffered. In fact, all of the teams have suffered
Yeah,
with this problem, except, of course, McLaren. Although when McLaren sorted their problem out, all they did, of course, was to raise the rear end slightly. And this leads me back to the Red Bull not actually sorting their or having a better car, just knowing how to deal with rake more than other teams. As it looks like what they did is just raise the back of the car somewhat to get rid of their porpoising problems. Mercedes will be able to do that, of course, and come the first race. So, Fabio.
the problem with raising the rake of the car with these kind of cars, with the ground effect cars, is that the moment you raise the car, especially at the rear, you lose. Is way less effective. So, I,
There is a compromise there to be made, though.
oh
You know,
yeah, no, 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 yeah,
porpoising
yeah,
is
yeah, and
not is going to work, right?
no, 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 no. I agree. But I mean, this is in general. So I don't think that the the reason why the Red Bull looks, and again, I'm using looks because I'm still of the opinion that we don't know nothing from those tests, or very few. It's not only due to the rake. I mean, it's the general balance and the way that is. You know, probably some there's something over the car which helps, you know, the bottom. But yeah, the porpoising it's a bitch, and the reason why everybody seemed to be caught by surprise is that it is almost, if not totally, impossible to simulate on the wind tunnel and with simulation. So everybody got caught by surprise. We saw some. You know, even something artisanal done in the you know, in the box, both in Barcelona and also in Bahrain. I mean, in Bahrain, Mercedes, they there was at a certain moment I was watching the you know, the tests, and you could hear whining, and it wasn't Lewis Hamilton, it was actually a mechanic in the Mercedes grinding pieces of the bottom of the car with a with a hand tool. So we got back to those moments. I mean, we're seeing the Alpine making holes in the bottom. Now, apparently, there are already terms like the mouse trap. At the end of the bottom. It's really funny to see, to even
Yeah.
think that engineers have been spending years designing the thing, and then there is somebody with a hacksaw saying, okay, you're gonna cut a hole over there, and there, I can get. I mean, I've been there. I can guarantee you there are some engineers which have been crying, like crying a lot, because they haven't seen their families for probably days and nights, and then there is this asshole with a hacksaw, cutting all the
Yeah.
work.
Well, of course,
But
they didn't introduce the strut at the rear to stop the
yes,
at least to drive. Excuse me. Go ahead, carry on.
yeah, because the bottom were flexing too much and were touching. That was something that we saw, especially with the Mercedes. Apparently, I mean that bottom is as flimsy as I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Donald Trump politics. I don't know. I mean, something. I mean, you take the choice. But it's really problematic. And talking about these things, expect something new for the first race, because they've been sending shit. There was like a constant flow of parts coming from the factories to the truck constantly every day
Yeah.
to try to solve that problem. And so I would not be surprised if in Bahrain there's somebody coming up with something that we have yet to see on the test.
I would give it like 9 out of 10 chance that Mercedes. The reason they didn't deal with the porpoising during the second test is because they're already working on an aero solution for it, and that they didn't want to just raise the car. They wanted to find out how their floor was working when it was close to the ground. Then, in fact, what they're going to do is come up with some kind of front end solution to try and get more air into the thing. Probably a new floor, if I would have to guess anything.
No, right, because it's a chain of events, which is really problematic. Even something that we said last year.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you one more time just to finish?
Please.
Which is David Scargill says apparently sports cars guys have to deal with porpoising a lot, so they have the answers, which is of course perfectly true. The LMP1 cars have this problem because they have a lot of ground effect. So it is worth noting that there are solutions out there. Probably why Mercedes didn't rush an answer or didn't just raise the rear end to get rid of the problem. Go ahead.
I think I might be wrong, but I think that the rules and regulation for the LMP cars are slightly different. I think that they are allowed to have what they call suspension limiters, which is something that F1 is not allowed to have. So yes, he is right. I'm not really sure that the solution can be easily put into an F1 car right now. So I mean, because of course that's a phenomenon which is not completely unknown, right? It's only that the way that it has happened with the cars right now, and again, something I was going to say before. Last year, you remember I said, one of the things I loved about the 18-inch wheels is that we would have seen, suspension working more properly. Now, what I didn't took into consideration, that was a big blunder on my side, is that with the ground effect, you basically need to have stiffer suspensions. So the wheel as an object doesn't provide the same amount of dynamics that used to provide the other, last year, because they're stiffer. And also you need to have stiffer suspensions too. So that increases the problem furthermore, because one solution, as you said before, would be to raise the car. But if you raise the car, the ground is not as effective. So the car basically hasn't got the same downforce. It's really problematic to find. They will find a solution. they're trying to find,
Yeah.
again, these mousetrap, these holes that they're putting
It's a
there.
compromise, isn't it?
Yes,
It's a
yeah,
compromise, and like I was saying, the compromise for Red Bull, of course, like they can do, and the other teams can't so much, is that they can find an increase in speed, at least corner entry speed and low corner speed, by using a rake, right? By using a high rake system, and that will in itself cure porpoising. And it's just a matter of compromise for them as to how much they wish to lose rear downforce, or at least downforce in the middle of the car because of the ground force, versus how much extra speed they'll get by higher entry speeds and low speed cornering. So
yeah.
there is another compromise to be made there as well. Just to
I,
say that the ground um, the
ground
underneath
effect.
ground force. I was going to say ground force. That's not the be all and end all of the car necessarily. So there is still further compromises to be made there. And it did look to me like the aero package which Red Bull brought was that kind of compromise. So that's kind of what I'm saying. That I think that's also why Mercedes decided not to try and make that compromise, and they want to put some aero parts, which we'll see at test one in Bahrain on Friday.
Yeah,
Peter,
Yeah.
Mercedes
sorry.
has also. No, I'm just super brief. Mercedes has
Yeah.
also another problem because of the way that the car is shaped. The floor is of course is way more flexible, and we saw that's why they put those things. So the solution they chose, they probably brought them a new set of problems that they didn't
Yeah,
probably think it through. So that is going to be another problem for them, which in my
absolutely.
book, fuck them. I don't care. The more
Yeah,
problems
again, I
they
think
have.
reshaping the floor will sort that problem out. As to how much downforce they will lose through doing that is another thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
Peter, sorry.
Yeah, I'm curious, and maybe Fabio can answer this because the test now, the second part was in Bahrain. Uh, I would think that it might also become an issue of getting the parts to the track in the time allotted. Because if they were doing the tests in Spain, they're a lot closer to the factory, so the time to get the parts there would be a lot less. Would that have an influence on people bringing parts to a test?
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, I don't see that as a big problem because so uh, I mean, from my personal experience, you start working on the things as long as the data comes in, and the data comes in the moment like 20 minutes after the car has stopped in the box, right? So you start working on the thing, and you might be right if they had tests and the race like the test on Monday and the race on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But there are basically 2 or 3 days where they can arrange stuff. I mean, it's not so difficult to build stuff, and they have these 2 or 3 days buffer to actually send stuff over there. So it's a valid point, but I think they have this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday buffer so that
Yeah,
they're able to send
and
stuff.
some of the team will have flown back to Europe as well in between the test and the race. So and of course we don't testing on Thursday. We're testing on Friday this season. They've changed the regs
Yeah.
for testing and they organising the weekend, so that gives them an extra day as well. Either way, I think they would rather, they would they would hire a plane if they felt they had to, right? Even at the expense, because the first race and getting off the block is so important this season. At least, and I would imagine again seeing Mercedes not trying to sort the porpoising problem out at the Bahrain test, says to
So
me that they were already working on something, and it's just a matter of waiting for it to turn up. And that's why they didn't try and just raise the rear end of the car and compromise.
So there is one team specifically which might have an advantage if the problem starts from the front, and it's Ferrari. Because the way that the front nose of Ferrari is done this year, so usually in F1 car you have the chassis and then you have the crumpling area, which is basically all the nose and where the wings are attached. Now that crumpling area, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but every time you change that area, it's got to be tested by the FIA. Ferrari did something really smart. They basically had the chassis, and then they have the crumpling area, and then they have the nose. So the nose is smaller as compared to the other car, but it's an attached part to the crumpling area. Basically, what I mean is that if they have to change the nose, they can do that without being subjected to tests by FIA. So
safety testing, yeah.
right. So I mean, I'm not really sure it's going to be the case, but let's say, for example, that the magical answer is in a new design of the nose. Ferrari can build a nose, ship it, and put it on the car on Friday. It's no problem.
Yeah.
The other teams cannot do that because that part's got to be tested. So
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I do think I do think Ferrari have looked very, very good. Their car design seems to be excellent. They've got all that space for cooling, and that yet even in the midday sun of Bahrain, they weren't using it.
Yeah.
I mean, that just bodes so well for Ferrari. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to the season. It bodes extremely well, the testing. Mercedes were back, and maybe they will be back. In 7th place or something, or just midfield car. Unlikely because it's Mercedes, of course. And as I say, I think that they sacrificed the results of this test in order to wait for a solution to come to the porpoising. And really, they were just focusing on low speed and medium speed corners. Yeah. And I think that they really sorted it out, because in some of the medium speed corners, porpoising happened going into the corner. So clearly they were getting extra speed out of those things in the middle sector. They seem to be really fast. So again, it just bodes really well for a very close season.
I mean, it was really problematic. As I said, it's really difficult. I think it's really difficult to make a list of which did better or not. So I mean,
okay.
My personal impression, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead on some of your points, Simon.
No, let's get through it.
Okay. So I think that so personally, I've been really impressed by the Red Bull. Because from the outside it seemed to be the more stable car in all aspects. Okay. And again, we gotta be super careful because nobody used the same tires. Even when they using the same tires, somebody were using the pro tires, which are like experimental. We don't know how much fuel, so it gets really, really weird and complicated fast. But Ferrari, for example, seemed to me like a very easy car to bring to the limit.
Yeah.
And it was actually super consistent. I saw the times that they tried, Sainz said, for example, they never did the time attack, which it's good, right? Because you don't know, but they did a lot of race pace, and the race pace was like 0.2 of a second outside of what Red Bull did with Max Verstappen. Again, it's really difficult because during the test, you only it's looking for the performance is not the main focus. You got a list of things that you got to do, a list of stuff you have to do, and performance might not be on the paper per se, So and that's the reason why I'm really the other thing about Ferrari is that rumors say that the engine was not tuned to perfection. They were not pushing with the engine. Something like, for example, that a team which I was really impressed by is the Haas. I mean, it really surprised me. Not just because of the times, because they tested, the truck was better. We know about that, but they didn't have too many problems. I think the return of Ken Magnussen is a really good thing after the old
Mm.
Ukraine and Mazepin shit. Mick Schumacher, I mean, is a good driver as far
It's
as
looking that
young
way.
drivers go.
Looking
So
that way.
yeah, Haas was really impressive to me, and they managed to do really good times with an engine which was probably a bit more extreme than the Ferrari one.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So yeah,
At least in terms of, I think those runs were low fuel runs that Haas were doing, and the fact that they took them, as I said, at one point they said, or Mick said, look, you know, we did, we took the fuel out and we improved so much, right? Rather than just a few places in the grid, which is what it would have been like last year.
yeah.
We improved so much. So it obviously bodes well that the back and front of the pack have closed up. I still think Haas is going to be at the back, in which case it just means that all of the top teams were doing heavy fuel runs, and
Yes.
nobody actually, everybody was sandbagging. So what can we say about that then, other than it doesn't bode well for Mercedes if that's the case? But nonetheless, we'll see how much Mercedes was sandbagging, because I just think they weren't even trying to get a decent time down, because of they came and found the porpoising was far worse than they thought it was going to be,
Yeah,
and
Mercedes was really
as such they knew they had to go and make a redesign,
it
at least a redesign of the floor anyway, which is
it yeah.
what apparently
Sorry.
it looked like Williams did. I mean, Williams came with 2 floors to that test as well, so I think they were aware that there was going to be a problem, and then obviously came with a second floor to try and sort it out. So there you go.
Yeah,
And of course,
Mercedes was
go ahead.
sorry, really briefly. I mean,
No.
Mercedes was really
Yeah,
puzzling
yeah.
because it seemed to me that they didn't even try to address the porpoising problem.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So now that might mean two things. Well, the first one is that they already know how to solve it, and they just didn't care. They just went on with the program that they had,
Hmm.
and or it might be that they have no fucking idea, and
Yeah.
they just gave up during the test, hoping that something that is coming from the factory for next race is gonna work. Regardless, it's a very, very risky situation. I know that Lewis Hamilton, but again, it's Lewis Hamilton, so I'm just well,
Already.
I mean,
Oh, get in
no,
there. No,
it's
you're right. You're right, because I've heard exactly the same thing you're going to say. So
right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I've heard it. I've heard it. Yeah.
we never make mistakes,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
what he
Yeah. Yeah.
said. So, okay, man, I believe you. So far, it doesn't really show, but hey, I mean, you might have a fucking missile under your belly, and it will show in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first race. But so far, I mean, the guy said they never make mistakes.
Yeah.
That is usually the kind of things that eventually it will bite you in the ass. I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
that's not the case, or maybe I hope it's the case, so we can have something a little bit more interesting in the last 8 years.
I
But
think so.
we'll see. We'll
I
see.
think so. Also, when he got out of the car after the last day's test, he wasn't very happy with the Mercedes.
Yeah.
And yet, when he got back for a debrief, he suddenly became more happy. So
Yeah.
obviously, there was a little bit of a disparagement between those two situations. I do feel though that Mercedes realised that they weren't going to have a solution, and there was no point in just raising the car to get rid of the porpoising to see what they could do,
Yes.
because they realised that they have to have a solution, otherwise their car is going to be nowhere near fast enough. So that'll just be really interesting to see what changes, although we won't see the changes, because my feeling is the changes will all be underneath the car, and that's how they'll do it. But anyway, Peter, did you just want to say anything further, or should we
Well,
move on?
regarding Lewis, so if you look at
Hmm.
the times and the where Lewis is at on the timescale board, he is down. I think as far down as he's ever been, and I you can say what you want, but he is a racer, so he would have wanted his name at least in the first half of the section of the time board, and not this
Hmm.
far down. which leads me to think
For
that
sure.
he knows something that we don't know, because he was apparently fine with a time like that. That I mean, that they are racers. They want to be on top of the board, whether it's
Yeah,
testing, whether it's
absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
have to be on top of the board, and he just
Yeah.
wasn't. And that, yeah, that
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
what that
We've just
means.
had a question in now from Bubba.
Bubblefish,
Um,
bubblefish.
is there any? Yeah, yeah. Is there any lesser team that made a good impression in this test this season? So, out of the lesser teams, do we think any of them have really moved up tremendously? I'm thinking Haas. I'm thinking Williams.
I mean, Haas made some good. I saw Haas, as a way more solid car than I thought it would be.
Hmm.
Williams was doing good, but then they had those issues, and it remains to be seen why that happened. If it's something
Yeah.
structural or a problem, so it's
They
they were
said
doing.
they did say they'd put a new piece on the rear end, the brakes especially,
Yeah,
and that's what had been the problem. And they were just testing out a new piece that didn't work. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, again, if we discard that incident, which I mean, every time there is flames and fire, is not something you can easily discard. But again,
mm,
uh, it seems to me they were doing good. I was pretty disappointed by Alpine.
yeah,
Uh, what else? I mean, McLaren did good.
very good in Barcelona as well, of course.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I'm thinking about. I mean, yeah. I mean, Alpha. Okay. Uh,
came good at the end. Alpha came good at the
yeah,
end.
yeah, 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 yeah. And
You know,
yeah. I
reliability
mean,
may be their problem.
yes, yeah. I mean, the Butler Bottas, said is quite worried about reliability. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
AlphaTauri was pretty good. I don't know how much fuel they put in the car, but it
Mm,
looked pretty good with both drivers, which is a good sign. They
mm.
what else?
That,
Yeah,
that one actually brings me on to the second point. Is that the cars look awfully twitchy this year. Do we think that setup is going to be a real issue?
they're way more stiff.
Mm.
That's the main issue. The
Right. So
cars
that
are.
this is going to favour some drivers over others, isn't it? It's going to favour drivers which are better driving with a neutral car.
Well, yeah, the thing is that in general, those cars are really, really, really way more nervous because, as we said before with the ground effect, you got to run very stiff suspensions, and stiff
Mm.
suspensions, they are not forgiving. So uh, you can go from understeer to oversteer to the car snapping. It's way more complicated, and of course you can soften suspensions. That means raising the car, and the ground effect doesn't work anymore. So they have to run really stiff, and
Yeah.
that is a problem. There is also another problem that we saw in the test. A lot of cars they had front wheels blocking while braking. That is another issue which is caused by the ground effect, meaning that they have to. So what the driver said that they have to apply a lot of pressure at the beginning because
Mm.
the ground effect really works, but then it just doesn't work way more sudden than with conventional cars.
Mm.
So you get to a point where you basically have to release the brake because, you know, all of a sudden you have way less downforce. And the front wheel they lock down.
Yeah.
So that is another problem under braking which they will have to face.
Yeah, not just on both wheels there, but also the fact that the cars are much stiffer obviously means that the unloaded wheel is going to lock much more easily, and also not
Right.
unlock much more easily, which is what we saw at
Right.
turn 11. Yeah.
Yeah, they have way less. How do you call? I mean, the pitch is way less strong, and pitch is what helps you during braking,
Mm.
and because of they have way less, they get to a point where they're basically trying to brake like a wooden cart.
Yeah.
It's just there. So
Well, also the fact that these cars, they're high-tech pieces of equipment, they brake when they're turning into the corner. They
oh
don't
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
brake to a straight line and then
No, no,
turn.
no.
They brake right into the apex of the corner, which means that
Yes.
always the inside is going to be unloaded, which means they're always going to have problems with locking up the
Yeah.
inside wheel. Although we did see much more in this last test, double wheel lockups, which of course is
Yeah.
the problem that you're alluding to. So that is true as well. Peter, anything to say on the twitchiness of the cars and how that's going to affect the season?
I think this is where it's going to separate the good driver from the little less good drivers,
Mm,
because they will be able to adapt on their braking, whereas others
yeah.
might struggle a bit. And you have to keep in mind that is a precision thing. They the brakes of a Formula One
Mm,
car, depending on the pressure you put onto the brakes. So we'll have to wait and
yeah.
see.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Okay, so tires. Now, tires. I just wanted to say, go around quickly. Um, Basically, one thing I noticed with the tires is that they were preparing the tires not at all. Okay, they were literally driving around at a snail's pace again in order to do their fast laps during the test. And also those that didn't do that, Verstappen didn't drive around at snail's pace on one of his fast lap attempts. He actually drove around a fairly reasonable pace, still not flat out or anything, but a reasonable pace. And then his tyres didn't last till sector 3. So are we thinking that these tyres we're going to have a problem with these? I mean, I am. Let me just say that straight away. I think tyres are going to be a problem this year, but I think they're a problem every year. So maybe that's not very informative. But I'm just saying, are we going to have problems with backing up again because you can't overstress these tyres to get the most out of them? Are we going to have problems because the tyres don't last a lap?
So, okay, three quick things about the tires. The first one is that the new rules, the temperatures of the tires. I mean, I think that by rules up until last year they could be brought up to 100 degrees, and I think this year is 70 degrees. So they start much colder. First of all, the second thing is that it seems that a lot of drivers, not all of them, but a lot of drivers had a problem with the tires cliffing after 4 or 5 laps. They lost performances. It seems to be there is kind of a thermal shock after a few laps, and there was
Okay.
some seriously the times were seriously going down. That didn't happen with all the drivers in all the cars. So I think
No.
it's mostly a problem of setup. The third thing, there was an interview by Mario Isola, the head of Pirelli on the track, and he specifically said that he said that basically, I mean, they have no problems making tires lasting the whole lap, the whole race, or only making one pit stop. But one of the um, one of the things that they've been asked by the FIA is to make the tires in such a way that basically having a 2 pit stop race is going to be faster than having a 1 pit stop race. So what we see from the tires is not as much as what Pirelli can do with the tires, and I think this is something we have to remember. But
Yeah.
it is a lot of what the FIA is asking Pirelli to do with the tires.
Interesting. Interesting.
And that is
Traditionally, the tire manufacturers have not wanted to do that because it doesn't reflect well on their brand, right? The
right,
fact that the tires don't last long enough for
right,
a whole stint, so to
yeah,
speak, and that's going to be very interesting on strategies that the teams pull, of course.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's great. Anything on tires from you, Peter?
Well, I think having more pit stops just makes the racing more interesting. As you said, you can have more strategies, so it adds into it. And I saw an article where Pirelli was told to make the tires less reliable than they were. So, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Mark Castells, welcome, Mark. Good to see you again. Thank you very much. I've barely followed testing this year. I want the first race to be a surprise. I hope the tyres don't explode. Yeah. Although, in some sense, I'm hoping they do. Okay, because that might be quite interesting, like it was last year. Although Lewis still won. But nonetheless, that's another point.
Did he?
Oh no, that was the year before. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
my years confused. I'm getting very old. Okay, so there we go.
Oh, can I just
But
say one? Sorry,
yeah,
before
go ahead.
I forget, can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
You can say whatever the fuck you want about Max Verstappen, right? I mean,
I
I don't
will.
like it. Yes, and you did. Still, uh, I love the fact that he put the number one on the car.
Yeah, I do as well.
That to me, it's it just got a million points, and I still don't like the guy. I mean, the same way I
Yeah.
don't like mostly none of them, but he put the number one on the car. Kudos to the guy. Well done.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It's been too
Yeah.
many years. Well,
Yes.
obviously because Lewis has been winning everything, and Rosberg retired. It's been too many years when we haven't seen the number one on the best driver. So
Yes.
I am really pleased that he's done that, and I hope it doesn't last more than a year.
okay.
But that's another point altogether. Peter.
Speaking about that, that is just an emotional thing, having a driver putting the number one on the car. Which brings me to say, and maybe I'm now disrupting your script. I don't know, but let's realize
Go
we
ahead.
could have had a team that had Schumacher and Fittipaldi in one team, and I'm really sad that that didn't happen, because how cool would
Yeah.
that have been to have those two names back and in one team? Uh, just yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe,
Although,
maybe it's because
we
I don't
understand
like.
why, right?
Maybe it's because I don't like Magnussen. If anything,
Hmm.
I would have preferred bringing Hulkenberg back in, who was,
I
as I
wish
heard.
I would say yes as well. I would say yes to Hulkenberg as well. But of course, let's not look. We have to look at the results. And Magnussen was faster than Schumacher. So if that doesn't tell you something about the fact that experience counts when it comes to new cars, I don't know what does. Just a quick one from Bob here. He says, uh, "Sorry, have the test shown that closely following cars been made easier?" We actually spoke about that a little earlier, Bob, and yes, it seems to be the case. Although the results of that are yet to be shown. So I just wanted to answer that question quickly. Moving on, if we can.
Yeah.
Cars twitchy. Understeer. Can we just talk about oversteer, understeer? And it did seem that the cars were suffering from understeer, particularly difficult to set up the cars to get them in at least neutral. Do we think this is
It's
going to be a problem, bearing in mind we're going to some circuits with a much bigger car, and not just longer, not just a longer wheelbase, but also heavier? Is that going to be a problem at circuits like Monaco?
Well, so I don't think it's going to be a problem in Monaco specifically, because the setup will be done specifically for that circuit. Also, it's a city circuit, a lot of bumps, so I'm expecting the car to be a little bit more high. But understeer is the son of the ground effect right now. The front wing has way less downforce than last year, and especially at low speed, you eventually have understeer, and also because of the fact, and again, it's a chain of events, right? You have stiffer suspension, so mechanical grip is less than what it could be, and at slow speed, you
Yeah,
do not have the downforce on the wing, or you have less downforce on the wing. Mechanical grip is what it is because the suspension is stiffer, and you basically steer the wheels, and they go straight. So that
yeah.
is, in some
Okay.
circuits, is gonna be quite a problem. Quite
Yeah,
a problem.
that's what I would say as well. Peter,
Well, I think
anything to say on that?
I think when it comes to Monaco, they will probably have it solved by then, because it's a prestigious circuit. and they're going to throw everything at it because that is one of the circuits
Mm,
where you want to do really well. So I'm not
yeah,
that worried that that's going to be a really big problem in Monaco.
yeah,
I mean, and also Monaco with the cars that wide is going to be. I mean, I think it's going to be basically impossible to overtake. So you,
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah,
as
Hmm.
long as you're ahead, you can have a car which is high as a Land Rover, basically, and and drive with the same speed as a Rolls Royce Corniche. Nobody will be able to overtake you because there's no physical space. So that problem is solved, I think.
yeah. Okay. Okay, good. I mean, we're getting very close to the end of my list here. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for all of this. Ricardo's COVID. How do we think that's going to affect him for the early part of the season? Does that put him behind the eight ball when it comes to Lando?
Uh, uh, well, they have a set. So McLaren, my understanding is that they do not have a test driver. So they've looked into that. Some teams they already offered the driver. Alpine has offered Piastri, which I mean would be super good to see
Yeah.
the guy. I mean, he's a very fast driver. Uh, Last news were that Ricciardo is actually feeling well and he might be there on Thursday. There are some rules and regulation in Bahrain
Hmm.
concerning COVID, so I think he has to. It has to be like 7 days from it was negative or stuff like that. So he might just make it by
Yeah.
Friday morning if he feels well. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, that's cool. And it's Friday, of course. He's got to be ready by Friday because of the
Yeah.
new regulations. Um, okay, brilliant. Then the last kind of little minor thing I wanted to talk about was we've got a new circuit in Saudi Arabia, and I just wanted to say, what do we think about going to Saudi Arabia? Um, what do we think about their racing at Saudi?
Uh,
Any ideas? It's just an
I,
unknown at the moment, or
I have no. I
Mhm.
really have no idea about that. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay. I'm assuming that the W series won't be supporting races. Just my guess, being Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia. Anyway, there you go. That's the only reason I asked that question, just so I could get
Yeah.
that joke in.
And
Okay.
that's the part that
Okay,
I
that's
would
fine.
like to
So,
see there. I mean, that is a pretty good statement to put out there. Have the Series race there
yeah, absolutely.
with
Okay, so
a
I guess
lot
we're
of
down to the end now.
events, a
It's been
lot of
a
events apart from the race as well. So a lot of press events just for the W
Mhm.
Series. That would I would like to see
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Okay, so we've been going over an hour. I want to try and wrap this up in the next 10 minutes, if possible. But I would obviously, we're down to the crunch time now. This is the bit everybody is tuned in for. Predictions time. Who is going to win the 2022 Formula One World Championship of this year? Fabio?
I, I honestly, I mean, I hope it's going to be something red. It should be about time.
Yeah, one
But
driver, please, Fabio. I'm going to push you on this, I'm
oh,
afraid.
one driver.
Yeah,
Jesus.
who is going to win the 2022 Formula One World Championship? Bring
One driver.
Grosjean back.
Jeez.
Sorry, David just said bring Grosjean back. Oh, Grosjean back. Oh my God.
Ah,
Can I vote for
I don't
Maldonado
know.
then?
No, 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 Fabio. Let me ask you one more time. Who is going to win the 2022 Formula One World Championship motor racing season?
The best driver in
Well,
the world.
I hope it's gonna be. I hope it's gonna be Leclerc.
Okay, great.
If
Thank you
not
so
for,
much.
if I mean, the reason is it's
No,
not
I'm
because of
writing
the
it down.
car.
I'm writing it down. I'm
Well,
writing Leclerc down now. You can't
can,
change.
no, no, no. I'm not changing. I just want to give a small rationale. Really, 20 seconds. As I said, I have no fucking idea about the cars because
Yeah.
I,
Who does? Who does?
right.
Yeah.
Uh, I was just thinking in my mind who is now, in my opinion, the most hungry driver over there. And given the fact that Charles haven't won a race in 2 years, if the car is what it seems to be, he will have a good platform, and he should not leave that chance
Okay.
go away. So yeah, I'll say
Excellent,
it like that.
excellent. Okay. Charles Leclerc, the pasty pastry
The pasty
for
pastry.
for Fabio. Peter, over to you. Your predictions for the 2022 Formula One World Championship motor racing season.
You blew it the
Who would you
second
say is
time.
going to
You
be
blew it the
first
second time.
place?
You're British. You should have said the best driver in the world. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
how
true
you
as well.
say
But
that
anyway, there you
for
go.
being British.
So your
I
your
recently,
prediction. Stop stalling.
for the people who are on Twitter, there is a Twitter account, Top Gear reviewing F1, which is a brilliant account. So
Sorry, Peter, your
Your
mic really
microphone is
sucks. Yeah.
is it still
Give
cutting
us it
out?
again.
So what I was trying to say is on Twitter,
Yeah.
there's an account, Top Gear, uh, um, viewing F1, something like that. Do a search. It's a
Sure.
brilliant account. Um,
Okay.
so I'm still a
So
fan.
you think a Twitter account is going to win?
No,
Okay,
no,
I've got you.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
still
write
a
it down.
fan of the one and only Sir Lewis Hamilton, but for now, I'm putting my money on Verstappen.
Okay, he's going Verstappen. Everybody,
Yeah,
he's going Dutch.
I
He's
don't
going
like it. I don't like
Verstappen.
it, but that's my
But
prediction,
that's who you
at
think.
least for now.
Can,
Absolutely.
can I just point out how much of a pussy Peter is? Because he said, "Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be Lewis, but I think it's gonna be."
No, no,
So he said two names.
I wanted to be Lewis. With what I
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah,
now,
yeah.
Hey. Yeah, absolutely. We've got you down as Verstappen.
a pussy
That's
would
fine.
have said
And
it's going to be Lewis because that's where
well, I don't know about that.
But
Wow,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know about that. Okay. So anyway,
it's still
sorry, I just
going
want
to
to
be
get it out
Lewis.
there.
But my prediction is Verstappen.
So I think for the 2022
Let's see if you have
World,
balls.
oh my God, World Championship, FIA World Championship, Formula One World Champion, I think this year will be
Bottas.
Sainz.
Wow, I thought you were going to say Russell.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say
wish.
Bottas.
I wish. And I'm with Peter. I want Lewis to be 8 times world champion so badly.
Me too.
And if he does, I'm happy to eat my hat. But I just think that over the series of the tests, the Ferrari has performed very, very well, and it's likely to be the best car given the variety of circuits. May not be the fastest car at each circuit, but I think it will be the most consistent car over all the circuits. And as such, the most consistent driver in that team is likely to end up with the World Championship. And for me, that's Sainz, as he seems to be just a little more consistent with his race results than Leclerc does. And that's my logic. So
Yeah.
I'm going Sainz. However, that's it. There's one minor question just to ask you, gentlemen, given that we've now given our thing 2 Ferraris, 1 Red Bull. So fuck Mercedes. Okay,
Yeah,
but
of
apart
course.
from that, who out of the alphas, which alpha is going to be alpha? Which alpha is going to be beta? Which alpha is going to be the beta in the alphas? And which beta is going to be the beta in the alpha betas? Fabio.
Well, I mean, judging from the performances, I still think. I mean, I think the AlphaTauri will be the alpha of the alphas.
Yeah.
And I've got so what I'm expecting Yuki Tsunoda to be a lot of fun. Maybe Gasly will end up with more points, but I've got so much faith that Tsunoda is going to do something so stupid and ridiculous. I'm really rooting for the guy. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got Sonoda as alpha. Gasly is alpha beta, and then obviously the betas. Who is going to be the
Well,
alpha of the betas?
no, okay.
Bottas or go ahead.
Actually, I would put Bottas ahead of Gasly.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting.
Just because the guy, I mean, he left a Mercedes and he jumped to an Alpha. I mean,
Yeah.
that is Alpha behavior, if you ask me. You know,
Yeah, I'm not sure he had a
it's
lot of choice about it. In which case, it is
well,
back to being
still,
Peter again. But
well,
okay.
have you seen his bank account? Of course, he had
Oh
choices.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's the reason he did it. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that's great. Peter, what would you say? Alpha Romero as Beta, or Alpha Romero as
I'm
Alpha?
still so it might be a language thing. I'm still trying to wrap my head on what the question actually is. I mean, alpha in the alpha,
Okay,
and
okay.
I'm a car guy. A beta is a Lancia. Ask Fabio; he will tell you.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There are no
That makes sense
no
as well.
alpha betas.
Okay, so
So
you don't give a shit about that. Okay, fair
no,
enough.
no.
Well, I
What?
think that's a
Okay.
great place. Go
Well,
ahead.
when it comes to the alpha team, I think Bottas might be doing well, considering that there's a lot less pressure now. He's already
Yeah,
going into the team being the alpha of the team. Um,
yeah,
I've
for sure.
heard some good
Okay,
things about him developing in the alpha
yeah,
team, so he might be a good one in that team.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, they've come from Kimmy, so it can't get any worse, can it?
and there's also the fact that the second driver in Alpha hasn't seen Alpha the circuits, so
Yeah,
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
that too.
Okay, just one final question from Bob. I wonder if Max and Lewis will start aggressively right at the start of the season. Do we
Yes,
think we're going to get some on track fireworks when those two get
yes.
together?
Max is going to be
yeah, I hope so.
full aggressive from the get go. He's had one world championship. He now wants a second, and he's going to
Okay,
be,
that's fair.
yes, all out from the
Listen,
start.
I mean, do you guys remember Monza last year? What a fucking brilliant race it was,
Would have
because
been.
those two idiots, decided to
Oh yeah,
get the
yeah.
fuck out of
I,
it.
I see what you're
So
saying.
so I really hope that they get really mad at each other and they just crash into each other. Hopefully at the first corner, so we can have a proper race and have fun. So
Yeah,
Basically,
okay,
what
fair
you're
enough.
saying, Fabio,
Okay.
they stacked the expectations at Monza.
yeah, and I hope they
Yes.
stack on top of each other. Literally stack.
See, this is where Simos comes
Okay.
in. You do not explain the joke. You just never mind.
Exactly. Thank you so much for not explaining the joke. We all got it. Okay, so thank you, Peter, for being with us live from Bahrain. Enjoy your week out there. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll have those two boys sent to your room, like we said,
two
and
boys,
obviously try not to abuse too many camels.
two boys. Um, I think
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
something
it's
went
the
wrong in
custom in Bahrain. Don't
translation.
worry about it. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. It's the custom.
just,
Okay.
just watch out for the ashish. Watch out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Peter. Want to backstage while I finish up, and then if you want to prepare everything for the outro, that would be great.
Hmm.
Check his expenses, Spooky says. Now we don't have to check his expenses this early.
There are none.
We realise
There are none.
there, there are. Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. Okay, there's a lot of goodwill goes his way. Okay, let me just say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much,
Thoughts
Peter.
and prayers. That's how we pay
Yes.
him. Thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. I usually send him my can
Fair
get
enough.
on the phone. So yeah,
Ouija
you can
I'm
pay.
gonna send in my visibility. So yeah,
okay. Wow, as
Ouija.
much as that. Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
All of it. All of it.
fair enough. Peter, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
You're still here, Peter.
Yes.
You're still here, Peter.
Okay.
Let me just get this right, okay?
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Peter, for being here. So we're going to switch the feed off live to
Okay.
Bahrain right this second, if you would, and we're
Okay.
going to finish up the show.
Okay.
So thank you once again. Okay. There we
There
go.
you go.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you very much, Fabio. As always, you are the Italian expert. You are
You're
an expert in
welcome.
all things Italian, and it happens to be that you like Formula One, so that's a real
Yeah.
bonus. I want to thank
Yeah.
everybody for tuning in. Please, we're around next Monday, maybe the same time. If there's anybody who can't make it, please let us know, and we'll change the time for you. Other than that, I think that's going to be about it. Go ahead.
We will come to your house to make the show.
If you want, there's no problem with that. We have an unlimited budget of goodwill and praise.
Yes.
So there you go. So thank you very much. And if you would like to roll the outro, thank you, Peter. And we'll see everybody next week. Take care now, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
And you let me know when I can